Welcome everyone to episode 3 of Just Listen, and I'm Peter Garino. Sorry for the late release this week, as life got ahead of me. Between work and personal things, I was not in a place to put out a proper episode this past Monday. So I decided to wait a couple days, take my time, and at least put something out that's, I think, meaningful to me. Let's get to this week's, what I normally would call, recap of headlines of the news. But I'm going to change it up and call it my rant session, recapping what I think is going on and what my frustrations are, what's going on in the area, whether being local, nationally, or globally. So let's start off with the $1.776 billion slush fund, or the anti-weaponization fund, that Trump appointed himself, and he's going to point out his own cabinet for it or whatever. I don't understand this. I don't really get how the president can just award somebody himself $1.76 billion, almost $1.8 billion for something that he wants. He's sitting there saying that he's doing this, he got this, instead of continuing his lawsuit against the IRS for at least $10 billion. What are we doing here? Like, this was not congressionally approved. This wasn't voted on. This wasn't, debated on the House floor or within the Senate chambers. This was just like Trump going, oh, I'm taking this money and I'm going to divvy it up to where I want. And then, by the sounds of it, there's no oversight on this. But we'll see how that plays out. I just don't understand, what are we doing? This kind of like touches on what I talked about last week on accountability of Congress and Speaker Mike Johnson. He just refuses to do anything. He's like, his nose is so far up Trump's butt that he just doesn't see the light of day. And then, like, the rest of the Americans are like, what is going on? There's enough even Republican rebuke of this that it needs to go into a vote and something needs to happen. Like I said last week, the three branches of government only work when they all work. And if Congress isn't going to do anything, they might as well just step down and be flat out honest and say, Johnson needs to go. I'm not doing anything against Trump. If you don't like it, get over it. At least that we know where we stand. And then come this election this fall, Americans' voices will be heard, one way or another. Trump has backed some delegates that actually have won against his former MAGA representatives. So he still has a backing within this country, surprisingly enough, that he's actually getting some elections swayed in one way or another. But by the sounds of it right now, at least what they put out, this fund here is going to go to like a lot of people. Do I agree with the tactics of the writing of Congress? No, don't. Attacking our police officers and the Capitol Police and destroying property within the congressional grounds. No, that just wasn't a way of doing it. Can I be like appreciative of what they were fighting for? At least they had a movement and they had something they were fighting for, and they were going after the cause of what they believed was the issue. Whether it was right or wrong, which most of us will say that was definitely wrong, at least they were going for that. People want to sit there and point them, but how about all the writing on the left side, all the looting? What were they fighting for? I'm going on a rant here. I'm just going one direction to another, but I think it's all tying together. Which is that we need to look back and like, what are we doing, and how can we solve these issues, and not just have King Trump have his way. This is why there's no King protest for issues like this. For the issues like Iran right now. We're 3 months into this war, 3+ months. 13 service members have passed since the start of this conflict, and Congress has not weighed in on the War Powers Act. Senate has passed it this past week, 50 to 47, with 3 Republicans absent from it. And then when it was time to go in front of House, Johnson refused to put it up for a vote. Many Republicans stating that there was too many absentee people. Okay, where are they? Get them in the chambers and tell them we gotta start voting on stuff. Congress hasn't done anything because they don't want to. And I think the reason why they don't want to vote on this is because they know that the Democrats have enough votes to reel in the presidential war powers and have our troops back and repealed out of Iran until we figure this out. So that's where that stands. Like I said, put in the comments below what your feelings on this are. I'm just personally, I'm just tired of. I don't want to really talk about him anymore. He's not a king. He's not all powerful. Yes, he is the president of the United States. I'm not going to say he wasn't elected. He won the election fair and square. Do I agree with him? No. Do I agree with his tactics? No. Do I think he's been harmful to this country? Yes. But that's going to come fall time to make sure I vote and put my voice heard. What I'm doing right here is my First Amendment right. There's things I disagree with all of them about. So let's have those discussions and see, in the next presidential election, who are we going to have vote? And now I think that's where the biggest problem with the Democrats have is just I don't think they have anybody worth a F to go forward. They're a bunch of cowards. They sit there and they play these games. And I'm like, why are we playing games? Do stuff for the American people. This is why you lost. This is why you can't get control of the Senate. This is why you struggle to get the House. Because you play ideological politics instead of just taking care of the American people. You're not going to get your point across when you're just sitting in back seats. Let's look at the bigger picture and get into the driver's seat. And then we can take care of them a lot better than we are doing now. There's my rant on that. Another rant. This is something that I've been ranting about years, and I just want to get this off my chest. Driving in the Upper Valley, I live in Hartford, Vermont, which is on the border of Vermont and New Hampshire, kind of in the middle there. And people around this area have no idea how to drive. I'm just driving. I have a 10-minute drive to work, and I think there's not a day that I don't go by where I don't at least scream at somebody for being stupid. My favorite one is when people are, if I'm coming onto the interstate or merging onto the main lane interstate, and I'm yielding so they can pass, and I get behind them. They're slowing up. They're about stopping on the interstate and holding me up, and everyone behind me. I'm like, what are we doing? Drive. If you're those people who decide, like, I'm going to yield while on the interstate for the people coming on, and you're slowing up, I'm going to be straight up with you. You're going to get somebody killed. Someone's going to come up behind you and rear into you because they're not anticipating you slowing down to 30 miles per hour on a 55, 65 mile per hour interstate. Just drive. And if you're that worried, get over into another lane. Roundabouts should be a great thing. But unfortunately, we have two of them in White River. People have no idea how to drive around. People will stop at yields in this area and with no one coming. And a lot of it's the elderly in the area who drives like slow folks. They don't know. Their connectivity may not be there. In this area, at least when I hear about people driving on the wrong side of the interstate or driving on the wrong side of the road, it's one of two people. It's either you're extremely intoxicated or you're elderly. And the fact that we have those two in the same category together, something needs to get looked at when it comes to, driving privileges. We revoke people's driving privileges for drunk driving. And I'm not saying, we should revoke every person's over a certain age, 65 or whatever's license, but they should be retested. And maybe they have restrictions on those licenses. I remember the last time I drove in the car with my grandfather on a certain part of the interstate. He dropped down to like 30, 35 on purpose. And he was telling me because, you have to be careful because people just come up. I'm like, no, you're going to get somebody killed. So I think this is a discussion that we need to have as a community and as a state, at least in the state of Vermont, that people do need to be retested after a certain age and every few years after that, just to make sure they are safe to drive. I think that's another ranting for now. And onto this weekly topic. The weekly topic I want to discuss this week is mental health. The CDC has mental health as defined on their website as the component of behavioral health that includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Mental health is a state of well-being that enables us to cope with the stress of life, realize our abilities, learn well, work well, and contribute to our community. It's time that we start taking care of our individual mental health. So I'm going to touch up on the kind of like last week's conversation of self-accountability, where we need to sit back and look and like what's going on. Well, and whether it's positively or negatively, what aspects of your life are going so well right now that you're kind of euphoric about, that things are going well. What can we do to build upon that? But I think as years go on, and especially in today's world, there being the conflicts that's going on in the Middle East and between, or the way the economy is right now, with the cost of goods going through the roof, and people are struggling to budget. People are struggling to buy food. People are looking at, cost of fuel that's going through the roof right now. I think a lot of that stems from the comfortability we've come to accustomed to, of that we took advantage of convenience of our lives. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't enjoy those aspects, but if you're feeling stressed out about things, let's work with those. Stress is not always a bad thing. Stress is a motivator to achieve something. A lot of times, mankind's biggest accomplishments stem from stress, and people either working together or working towards a goal to how we solve this issue, and we have a lot of achievements due to that. So let's look at the positive aspect of stress, and instead of looking at the negative, and how can we better ourselves and better our lives to become less stressed. In today's economy, the cost of goods and cost of food is through the roof, cost of fuel. So, and for a lot of individuals, that's a tough issue because it's harder for some people to deal with these issues than other people are. People are having to budget more. People are having to make sacrificing more. The result of that individual, there is definitely external circumstances that are going on in the world right now. Like I said, we have the war or conflict in Iran right now. We have the tariffs that happened that definitely increased the cost of goods. Transportation's been through the loop right now. The world is changing, and I think people are having a hard time adapting right now. And I think a big part of that is social media and just the internet in general, with social media being the big driver of that. But people's ability to look at what's going on in the world right now, and you're just getting glimpses of what's going on, but not the whole big picture. And as well as you're getting some people's perception of what's going on, but not getting others or the actual facts that's going on, that people just want to drive these issues that helps get them more clicks, get more views, that help better, to enrich themselves instead of sitting back and looking at the totality of situations. And so we sit here, and these numbers are going to bounce off of are going to come from like 2023, where about 1 in 4 Americans suffer from some kind of mental health illness, where 31% of those individuals suffer from anxiety, and 10% of those individuals are depressed, or suffer from depression, where women are twice as likely to suffer from depression. But you look at the other aspects of mental health, with the big one being suicide. Men are astronomically more likely to commit suicide than women are. And I think that touches on the depression thing, where I think men's depression goes widely unreported, and hence why men are more likely to end their own lives, as they may not feel there's any other way out of the situation, or they have nobody to talk to, and the things in their heads just build up and build up to the point. And I hope that you will never have to deal with that. The kids coming up today, high schoolers and young adults. When I say young adults, I say 18 to, let's say, 35. Those I consider young adults. As I'm 39 right now. I'm about to be 40 this year. That's why I consider them young adults. The world is a different place than it was. Like I said, this is, I think, where social media has definitely played a huge negative impact on it. And people's inability to reel themselves in within social media, just the ease of access right now to our phones. I remember when I was in school, cell phones were becoming a thing, but definitely not smartphones, not the ability to do everything in our life aspects on our phone. And the stress of immediate results and immediate action is a farce. You don't need immediacy. Let's look at the big picture, and let's look at the future of what's going on. And I think that creates a lot of stress with the individuals. Me personally, I've seen so much individuals, especially since 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic and everything that played with that. I've seen a lot of people's mental health and physical health go way down And I say it's a lot of it due to the stress of what's going on in their lives. And we need to help those individuals in ways I don't think a lot of us just don't know how to. This doesn't get discussed well enough. We need to come together as a community and say, what are the biggest factors right now in stress within our community? Let's not even just say as America as a whole, as America as a big country, but let's just like localize it. And what can we do as a community to help build each other up? And this also goes to the aspect of self accountability, where what can you as an individual contribute to help out? It may not always be something that you want to do, or yes, but how can we turn those inconveniences to conveniences? And it's like turning bad stress into good stress. Stress isn't the enemy all the time. Stress does motivate us to get things done, and a lot of our mankind's greatest achievements are stemmed from stress. And that is something that I think we need to have this discussion about, and to step back and even discuss with ourselves and then reflect and be like, wow, this is what's going on. If there's a good aspect, wow, I'm enjoying this. It's kind of euphoric. I'm having a great time with it. What am I doing with this? Or if you're having a rough time, what's going on right now? What are the factors that are contributing to that? And is there something I can do to help out with that? And the answer is not always like, yeah, there's something you can do to help out with that. Sometimes you do need help, but let's make sure you get the right help. There's too many bad people out there who want to, who give you bad advice on purpose to see you fall even further. And there are, and on the other side too, there's also people out there who are genuinely trying to help you out, trying to give you good advice, whether it's take you in or whatnot. But sometimes they may be doing more harm than they are doing good, and not realize it until it's too late. Because what the advice they're giving at that moment may not be what that individual needs to help them through that situation that they're in. I think this also goes on the subject of mental health professionals. Mental health professionals need to look at themselves and come to a consensus that they need to help treat the individual and not the case. Because I think with a lot of them, they see the case as statistics, as a blanket under one banner instead of a person being individual. Because not one life is the same as another individual's. There's over 8 billion people in this world, and my life is not going to be the same as yours or as anybody else's in this entire world. And we need to realize that there's different environmental factors, religious factors, social factors. There's a whole bunch of different factors to define a person as an individual. This is a lot bigger issue than I think a lot of us realize. And I definitely will embrace any conversations, whether you see me out in public or in the comments below. Let's have these discussions about one's mental health and what can we do to help each other out. I know I suffer from anxiety. Me just doing this podcast has been very anxious for me to do. And it's not that I don't want to do it, and it's not that I'm ashamed of doing it. I just want to make sure I do a good job. And a lot of times I feel like I'm not doing a good job. That's why I feel like I'm rambling on. And that's not a bad thing for me. It's motivation for me to realize, okay, if I'm not doing as good as I want it to be, what can I do to make things better? When I say a lot, those are aspects of me, like just my brain kind of like telling me to slow it down and try to like gather my thoughts. And it's something I want to work on, and I think that will help out with my anxiety, as I don't have a big social presence, as I just don't want to be around people. I think this is like the first like stepping stone for me to get back out there and discuss and talk to people, help out with that anxiety, to be a proactive member of my community. And it's something I want to work on. And I definitely welcome any meaningful conversation about what you want to talk about. And for those who are in a dark place, please, 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 please get help. The world is a better place with you in it. Um, and things can always get better. It may not be easy. The world is better with you in it. And if you are in a dark place and you are in a crisis, please reach out. There, the hotline 988. You can call or text that. There are mental health professionals that, and there social individuals that will help out and help you out, at least with the situation that you're in, to get you hopefully into a better place. Again, that's 988. I appreciate you all being here. Until next time, thank you.